So GPU prices suck, but they're getting less bad, and you can actually build a pretty solid system for $1,000 now. According to my last month build, I went with the RX 6600 for a 1080p focused build, and that's still a great choice. But at least the prices I'm seeing right now, across the board, GPUs have come down a bit, and it's easier to find the RX 6600 XT version for about $500 now. It always was available for that price occasionally, but it's now coming in stock more frequently at that price. And as the time of filming this video, there's been one sitting in that at that price for the last several hours. I've been monitoring it before filming. Now, that's actually a 19% jump in 1080p gaming performance compared to the 6600, which was already a very, very solid 1080p graphics card. So that is what I'm going to try to build today's build around. So I'm just going over here to PC Part Picker, and we're not finding some super special deal or anything like that. This is searching stuff that's actually in stock at major retailers. You're not waiting for some bundle or crazy thing, buying it faster than the bots do. We're just looking at a realistic price that's actually just sitting in stock on the market right now. I should make myself tiny so I'm not in your way here. So at PC Part Picker, I've locked in this 6600 XT, and the cheapest version I could find was $500 plus $10 of shipping getting factored in there as well. Now, for the CPU, basically we need to try to keep everything here pretty budget conscious if we're going to make the rest of the build basically cost $500. So I am really hoping that we're going to find a 12400F in stock. Yes, looks like we do. So the 12400 and the 12400F are great gaming CPUs. Really, really good, especially for the price. And the difference between the F and the non-F model is that the F model doesn't have the integrated graphics, which can come in handy, but assuming your graphics card is actually working, you shouldn't really need that. And I think for our purposes here, it's going to be worth saving the $30 or so that it's saving us. So we're going to go ahead and get that F model because we're going to need every penny to hopefully lock this in at $1,000. Now, here's the thing. The CPU cooler would be nice, but this does come with a stock cooler that does get the job done. And a CPU cooler is kind of a nice to have thing that you could upgrade in the future. If you have an extra $50 lying around, a few months from now, you could buy yourself a nice cooler and get that upgrade. But you're not going to notice any serious performance issues here just on the stock cooler. A newer one will just, be nice, maybe keep your fan speeds and temperatures a little bit nicer, that kind of thing. Now, we need a compatible motherboard. So I'm just going to search motherboards and search price low to high. And since I've already locked in the CPU, it's going to only search for compatible motherboards. But you would be looking for the LGA 1700 socket for this CPU. Now, you got to know what these numbers mean. The H610 has a lot of compromises on it compared to what I'm looking for, which is a B660. The B660 is a step down from like the Z690, which is what you'd be looking for if you wanted to overclock. But the 12400 doesn't really support normal overclocking anyway. It's the K series Intel chips that do. So the B660 doesn't have any major compromises other than that lack of the overclocking stuff on the Z690. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab myself a B660M to save on price. Now, it'd be worth comparing motherboard models, but all the other ones seem to cost a lot more. So I'm just grabbing this one to keep it within the price range. When you're actually buying, if you're going to follow along with this build, I would compare which motherboards are available in this price bracket and see if there's missing features or better reviews on a particular model. Okay, memory-wise, well, it would be really nice to have 32 gigabytes of RAM just for future-proofing. If we just get 2x8 and go for 16 gigabytes in the vast majority of situations, as long as you're not heavily multitasking along with your gaming, this should not be an issue. Meaning, like, I know if you have 50 Chrome tabs open while you're playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, okay, maybe it's a problem, but just close your stuff, guys. Anyway, I'm just going to search for 2x8 and search prices low to high and just see what's available. So it looks like the cheapest 16 gigabyte kit here is $50. That's about where they tend to be. And it's a DDR4 3200 at 16 on the cast latency. So honestly, I've got to say that seems pretty reasonable, and stepping up the price a little bit actually seems to just be getting us stuff that's the same or worse in terms of specs. And I don't think it makes sense on this budget-focused of a build to do much different than this. So we're going to go ahead and grab that $50 kit on the RAM. Okay, what are we doing on price? So overall, we're already up over $860. So we've really got to be price conscious here. Now, a place that you can cut is on storage by going with the hard drive rather than an SSD, but I don't recommend that. I'd rather go with a smaller SSD or even a worse SSD, because a bad SSD without even DRAM cache or anything is still going to be so much nicer to have in your system than a hard drive. Okay? It just is. So we'll figure out what our budget is for that by fitting in something that we really can't ignore, which is the power supply. We're going to search prices low to high, but you're not going to just go ahead and grab your cheapest power supply on the entire market. But we're also not going to overkill it. Some people really overkill the power supplies. Now, it's nice to overkill a power supply because it can help support a huge beefy GPU upgrade in the future. I get it. But we're trying to keep this at $1,000. It's up to you if you want to really beef it up on your particular build if you actually follow along. Now, one thing that's jumping out at me here is the EVGA BR, which has a whole bunch of 5-star reviews for $40. It's 500 watts, which is not going to support a very high-end GPU, but it actually should be okay for the system we're building here. But it's worth skimming down a little bit and checking if you could get something significantly better or more watts at a similar quality for just spending a little bit more money. So that's why I'm not just locking that one in quite yet. Okay, here's an EVGA BR again, but this one is 700 watts for $49. So how much more money was that? Where was my other BR? So $40 versus $49 for an extra 200 watts on an equivalent power supply. 700 watts actually can handle a pretty big beefy GPU upgrade in the future. I even ran a 6800 XT on a 650 watt power supply for a while. Granted, it was a very good quality 650 watt power supply, but 700 watts can support quite a bit. Now, the lower end models may be less so, and I have a feeling this is probably not it probably has all the cables attached. It's not the modular or whatever you call it, where you can take the cables on and off. But we're looking at budget, guys. We're already up to $914. Ugh. Okay, so what else do we actually need? We need storage, and we need a case. I don't factor in Windows licensing because a lot of people are perfectly fine either with one license they already own, or they have a gray market CD key for $10, and I don't want to argue against that when, it could be fine. So I don't want to factor in $100 for the operating system when a lot of people aren't going to pay $100 for the operating system. So, okay, $914, where are we at? Let's go with storage, and then we'll just fit in the cheapest case that we possibly can. We have to make the storage pretty cheap here as well. So, oh man, I would love to get a 1 terabyte SSD. I just don't know if that's in our price range right now, though. I think we might have to go with a 500 gigabyte. So we got the SN550, we've got the 970 Evo Plus. Those are both decent for around the $65 price range. I'm curious if we just sort by SSDs and price low to high, what we'll actually see. So 120, 240, 250, I don't want to go below 500 gigabytes because I want you to at least be able to install your operating system, your major programs that you use, and at least 1 or 2 games that you might switch between before adding in some extra storage in the future, which will absolutely be the plan here. Okay, we're starting to get into the 500 gigabyte range, but it's looking like they're not even M.2 drives. We do have a 480 gigabyte M.2 right there. Doesn't look super great. Let's keep scrolling. What can we get? Got to scroll back up to the top. Okay. Some 500 gigabyte stuff. Again, I'd kind of prefer to get a nice little M.2 drive in there. Okay. So it's kind of a no-name, but the price is right, guys. So here's the thing. I don't actually recommend this SSD. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that for the price, notice that we only have $40 left to fit in our case, okay? If you need this to be $1,000 and not a penny more, this is the SSD that we can afford, okay? I don't want to cut back our GPU just to get a better SSD, especially because you can just add in more SSD storage in the future, or even just large hard drive storage in the future. Okay, this leaves us the case, and we're just going to have to search low to high. And the cheapest case on the entire thing is going to barely fit our budget. Oh my, and it has no reviews. Could we go slightly over budget and get something that actually even has a review? The Dark Phantom, maybe that one. At least 3 people liked it. Does that put us over budget? I mean, by $10, and some of that's shipping. Okay, so if we ignore the shipping, whatever. Although it's only cheap because of the mail-in rebate. So let's just throw it out here as get the cheapest case that you can stomach if you need to keep the $1,000. Same thing on the SSD. But I actually feel pretty good about this build other than that. I think that this is going to have fantastic 1080p gaming performance for a while now, not just right now. And then this would make a reasonable budget 1440p build, although I'd really recommend shooting for better than a 6600 XT for solid 1440p performance. The problem is the prices right now jump up a lot in order to do that. Honestly, I was looking at new graphics cards, and there's a 6700 XT for like $800, so it jumps up a lot to go up to the next AMD card. Now, one thing that's interesting is a 3070 Ti for $870, but again, that's a huge price leap. Although that is a better price than we've been seeing recently. So, I mean, if you did just slot that in here, then suddenly this becomes a much more powerful gaming system, but it's also going to be almost a $1,400 build instead of a $1,000 build. So there you go. All right, hope the build was interesting for you, and I hope you have an excellent day.